Hey, I'm going to show you how I would do a quick retouch on portraits in Photoshop from Lightroom because I feel like it's so much faster to do it that way than to try to use the tools up here to do extensive retouching. This is a couple that I took pictures of last week, and you can see that he has a lot of moles and blemishes and things. So I could go in here and use the spot removal tool or try to brush things out, but I just feel like it's so much faster when you use Photoshop. So I'm going to bring this image into Photoshop. Just a note, I've already edited this picture, so my preset's applied and I've got it just the way I want it to look. I just need to do the finishing touches, so that's what I'm going to do right now. So I'm going to go down here to the film strip and right click on it and go to edit in Photoshop. This kind of a thing would normally take me 1 to 2 minutes to do. It'll probably take a little bit longer since I'm explaining what I'm doing, but you can see my process. So the first thing I would do is make a new layer. I don't want to work on the background layer because that's the original and I don't want to mess with that. So hit Control J to make a new layer that's a duplicate layer of the background layer, and then I'm going to zoom in. I use the Z button to get to the zoom tool and click and drag. Sometimes my graphics processor doesn't want to work and I have to actually click like this and then hit Alt to zoom out, but it's working today, so I can just click and drag to the left and right and it'll zoom in and out. So on this first layer, the first thing I'm going to do is remove all the blemishes, things that I definitely do not want in the final picture. So I'm probably going to use the spot removal tool, the spot healing brush tool to remove all blemishes. I might use the patch tool too, but we'll see how this works. So I'm going to find anything on their faces that I think should not be there, or isn't a permanent feature of their face. Might need to zoom in a little bit more on his, but I'm just going to go through really quickly, click on all the things that I don't think should be there. There's a lot of like little spots and things on his face, so it's kind of hard to tell, but I think in the end it doesn't really matter that much. So going to try to get rid of all these little things here. Oh, there we go. Yeah. The other thing that's bothering me is this spot on his face here that is kind of red. It almost looks like a little rashy, or I don't know, I think he was sweating, so there's some shine and redness going on. Then he has these lines from wrinkles. So I'm going to take care of that on another layer. So I'm going to hit Control J and I'm going to take the patch tool and I have it set to source. I think that's the default, so I don't think you need to mess with any of these, but just, you can take note of the settings here if you want. And I'm just going to start grabbing, you just lasso the area that you want to fix, and then you're going to click and drag it to an area that you want it replaced with. So the important thing here is to try to find skin that matches the texture and the tone as much as possible. It doesn't have to be exactly perfect, and I'll show you why. You can even use skin from her face if you want, but can't really get the texture to match 100%, but that's okay because what we're going to do is lower the opacity so it looks normal, but just, this is it off, and I'm going to bring it up to about 30, I don't know, 30 something, maybe 30%. That looks good to me. This up here is kind of bothering me a little bit. If you accidentally hit something that's a completely different color, like if I were to accidentally grab his hair, it's gonna make this weird shadow, so I'll hit Control Z and that undoes the last thing that I did. So I'm going to zoom out and just see how that looks from a distance. I don't know, I think I'm going to reduce it a little bit more. I think we'll go with 20%. That looks better to me. Okay. So then the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to hit Control J and make a new layer. Now, if I bring the opacity of this layer up to 100%, it's going to apply the last thing that I did at 100%. So we don't want that. So actually I'm going to delete this layer. I'm just going to drag it down here to the trash. And I'm going to go ahead and flatten my image and make a new layer from that. So then we want to deal with these moles. So I'm going to use the patch tool for this. See how that works. I'm going to go in and just select the area, move it to the area that I want to replace it. Just like that. She's got one here. I am completely removing these. You can switch between the spot tool and the patch tool. Oh, I just Control Z. Oh, I did it again. My computer's lagging because I'm running this software to record this for you. But here you can see, oh look, their skin looks perfect. But that they know their skin isn't perfect. They have moles, and they'd be like, where did my moles go? So what I'm going to do is just reduce the opacity again to where you can just see the moles, but they're not like a distracting element anymore. And right around there I think looks good. So if I turn the layer off, you can see before and after, before, after, before, after. Yeah, way better. So I am going to layer, flatten image. The last thing I want to do is tighten up her chin just a little tiny bit. I don't want to mess with it too much because you can really start making things look fake and unnatural if you do this. But I just feel like, you know, for me, I'm really sensitive about like my double chin, and I know girls can get really sensitive about the way they look. So just a little tiny little nip and tuck I think doesn't hurt sometimes. So I'm going to use this rectangular marquee tool and just select her face and neck. Because when I bring it into the Liquify tool, that way it's only going to bring in what's inside this box, and it'll load a lot faster than if you try to load the whole image. So I'm going to go up here to Filter, Liquify, and in this tool I'm going to use this forward warp tool. If there's any items, any parts of the image that you don't want this to affect, you can use this freeze mask tool. Like I don't want it to move her necklace at all, so I'm gonna just paint over that, and maybe this hair right here, I don't want that to move either. But the rest of it, I'm fine if it moves. So go back up here to the forward warp tool, and I'm gonna use a huge brush, and I'm just gonna move it a little bit, bring this up a little bit, and then I want to bring it over just like that. So if you unclick the preview button, you can see what I just did, and it's like barely noticeable. Like she won't even notice that I did anything, but she'll know that she looks good. So so there we go. That's the finished edit. I'm gonna X out of here and hit save, yes to save, and it's just gonna pop right back into Lightroom, and there we have it. So that's the finished, and this is before we took it into Photoshop. So you can see what a difference that made. Before, after. And I'm just gonna go ahead and get rid of the before out of this collection. And now I have to edit all the rest of their pictures. So there you go.